Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, after being closed for nearly 2 years, the future of the Paintsville pool is a little more certain. And the investigation into the raid at former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home continues as more information about what was seized is released.
Plus, warm and humid air has returned to the mountains to close out this work week. The complete breakdown on if shower and storm chances come with it coming up as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to southern and eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. One pool in Johnson County is getting a bit of a makeover after it was shut down in 2020 due to the pandemic. WYMT's Jordan Mullins has more on the renovation plans from officials in Paintsville.
When COVID-19 made its way to the Commonwealth, Governor Andy Beshear ordered many businesses and other facilities to shut down for some time, including the Paintsville pool.
He also closed down public pools. It was his first initial reaction to what was going on with the pandemic with facilities of that nature. So we were shut down.
The pool was built in 1952, but after its closure in 2020, the pool has been closed ever since.
Numerous issues that's going on over that pool have just accumulated over the years. You know, the pool's 70-some years old. You know, you're going to get that.
Because of these issues, officials decided it was the perfect time for an update. The city of Paintsville has announced phase 1 of the pool's renovations will begin soon, adding a splash pad and a general update to the pool's buildings, slide, and other facilities.
We wanted to put something in that, like I said before, was kind of the first in this area, and that way we can draw people from different counties and maybe from different parts of the state. But when we did this project, tourism was definitely in mind.
And although the pool is set to reopen next summer, officials say to trust the process and be aware that timelines may change.
The only problem that we may run into is the supply chain issue. If we can get by that and get materials in here and get people started working, then the kids in this community should be able to enjoy that pool next summer.
But the pool will be back soon, and better than ever. In Paintsville, Jordan Mullins, WYMT Mountain News.
Mayor Bill Mike Runyon added that following a study done in 2020, around 80% of people in Johnson County mentioned a splash pad when asked about what could be added to the pool's attractions or facilities. He also added that folks seem excited about the pool reopening next year. While the pool is coming back, data from Johns Hopkins University indicates the number of people getting COVID-19 may be decreasing. However, data from the CDC shows many major U.S. counties still have a high community level of COVID-19. As for people getting hospitalized with COVID, the Department of Health and Human Services says the numbers are dropping slowly, but they are still more than twice as high as they were 4 months ago. And the number of deaths due to COVID-19 is still high too. JHU says nearly 500 people died of COVID each day in the past 2 weeks.
Watching heat and humidity return to the mountains as we run through the nighttime hours tonight. Upper 80s already out there right now to near 90 degrees. So much worse than what we were dealing with the past few days when we had low humidity and temperatures in the 80s. Upper 80s right now at Buffalo Mountain with that filtered sunshine working in as we run through the rest of the evening hours. For the most part, our showers have moved out of the region, but just barely, into portions of very far northern Jackson County, about the only game in town right now, very far southwestern parts of Estill County, basically where Estill, Jackson, and Madison counties come together, seeing a shower, and west of Mount Vernon as well. Temperatures, middle and upper 80s. It is much more humid than we've been dealing with those dew points back in the middle and upper 60s and low 70s, so we've got plenty of heat and humidity left to go. So if you're headed out to high school football, especially our Appalachian Wireless Game of the Week, number 3 Johnson Central and North Laurel, 80 to kick, 70s as we head through the game with, again, that 10% chance of rain. Not a huge downpour. It won't last long, but we'll be keeping an eye out for it. Details on how much more rain we could see this weekend coming up in a few. Steve?
All right, thank you. We're getting a more detailed picture of the items removed from former President Donald Trump's Florida home. A federal judge in Florida ruled that the inventory list could be unsealed as she weighs whether to appoint a special master to review all of the documents. CBS's Natalie Brand reports from Washington.
The newly unsealed list reveals more than 13,000 items were seized during the FBI's search at former President Trump's Florida home last month. That includes 54 U.S. government documents marked secret, 31 confidential, and 18 top secret. According to the list, more than 11,000 of the documents removed were without classification markings. Gifts, books, and news clippings were also part of the inventory.
This seems like it's an issue of paperwork that should have been able to be worked out between DOJ and him. I don't know what he took or what he didn't take.
The federal judge in Florida is still weighing whether to appoint a special master to review the seized documents. Thursday, she ordered the unsealing of the list, something neither side objected to. On Fox News, Trump's former Attorney General Bill Barr called the former president's request for a special master a red herring and blasted his public claims that he declassified the documents in question.
If, in fact, he sort of stood over scores of boxes, not really knowing what was in them, and said, I hereby declassify everything in here, that would be such an abuse and show such recklessness that it's almost worse than taking the documents.
The DOJ's investigation of Trump's handling of documents marked classified is just one of multiple ongoing probes involving the former president and his supporters. Former Trump White House counsel Pat Cipollone and his former deputy Pat Philbin appeared in a D.C. federal court Friday to testify before a grand jury. Cipollone is now the highest-ranking aide known to testify in the DOJ's investigation of January 6th and alleged efforts to overturn the election. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Washington.
Tomorrow, former President Trump will hold a rally in northeastern Pennsylvania. It will be his first public political speech since the FBI search at his Florida home last month. A CBS News investigation found online threats targeting federal authorities spiked after the FBI search at Mar-a-Lago. U.S. Marshals say the number had already been consistently rising since last year, when they say they dealt with 4,500 threats against federal judges. Law enforcement say tensions rose after the January 6th riot in 2021 and the Supreme Court decision on abortion rights this year.
We're seeing a major uptick in threats. Any public figure is a viable target for these people, and it knows no political affiliation.
Now, you saw Simon didn't have a last name listed there. He asked that his last name not be released for security reasons. As a cyber threat investigator, he searches online for domestic terror threats and shares his findings with federal law enforcement. Simon and his team at the Washington-based research group Memory compiled a 90-page report, but most content was too graphic for broadcast. Simon said some of the terms his team is finding refer to the FBI as scum, but others say that three-letter agencies need to be cleansed and eliminated. Others are even going so far to say, quote, they'll die for treason. A judge has thrown out a lawsuit a former Trump campaign advisor had brought against the Justice Department and the FBI. Carter Page was under surveillance for about a year around the 2016 campaign. He had known ties to Russian spies and had worked for a Kremlin-controlled energy company. The DOJ inspector says the process to obtain the related warrants was bungled, and 2 of the 4 warrants granted have since been declared invalid. But the judge who threw out the case said Page was suing the wrong people instead of those who conducted the surveillance. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, the countdown is underway again for the next trip to the moon. After being delayed earlier this week, NASA's Artemis 1 is set to launch.
Plus, we got a lot of hot air in the forecast, and I'm not just talking about me. The latest on the mugginess working back in, coming right up.